She went to bed like she always did. The lights were turned off, her phone was plugged in beside her bed, her keys were on the kitchen table. The door was locked from the inside. By morning, she was gone. No note, no sign of a struggle, no open window, no explanation. To this day, investigators cannot explain how a woman vanished from a locked home without taking anything with her. Disappearances happen every day. People leave, people start over, people run. But this case is different because nothing about her life suggested she was planning to disappear. She had plans the next morning, she had responsibilities, she had people waiting for her. And when someone vanishes without taking their phone, their wallet, their keys, or even their shoes, it raises a question investigators still cannot answer. Did she leave, or was she taken? Her name was Name, intentionally withheld, and she was in her late 20s. By all accounts, she lived a quiet, predictable life. She worked a steady job, she paid her bills on time, she spoke with her family regularly. She didn't party heavily, she didn't disappear for days at a time. Friends described her as cautious, routine-oriented, the kind of person who double-checked locks before going to bed, which is why the condition of her apartment the next morning would shock everyone who saw it. The night she disappeared was unremarkable. She returned home in the early evening. Security cameras in the building showed her entering alone. She exchanged a few casual messages with a friend, nothing urgent, nothing emotional. Around 10:30 p.m., she sent her final text. It was ordinary. No goodbye, no distress, no hint that anything was wrong. Sometime after that, she went to bed. No one heard shouting, no neighbors reported noise, no alarms were triggered. And that is where the timeline stops. The next morning, she didn't show up for work. That was unusual. When calls went unanswered, concern grew. By midday, a family member went to her apartment. The door was locked. They unlocked it themselves. Inside, everything looked normal. The bed had been slept in, her phone was still charging, her purse was untouched, her keys were exactly where she always left them. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken furniture, no blood, no forced entry. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. When police arrived, they initially treated the case as a voluntary disappearance. After all, there was no evidence of a crime, no suspect, no note, no indication she'd been taken. Officers asked the usual questions. Was she depressed? Did she owe money? Was she in a relationship? Had she ever talked about leaving? The answer to all of them was no. Still, crucial hours passed. Hours where neighbors were not canvassed. Hours where security footage was overwritten. Hours where possible evidence faded. And those hours would never be recovered. But one detail refused to make sense. The apartment windows. They were locked. Not just closed, locked. Maintenance confirmed they could not be opened from the outside. There was no fire escape access, no balcony, which left only one way out, the front door. But the door showed no damage, no tampering, no indication it had been opened after being locked. Investigators were faced with an impossible scenario. She did not leave voluntarily. She did not pack. She did not prepare. And yet, she was gone. Theory 1. She left on her own. But people do not abandon their phone, wallet, and keys, especially someone known to be cautious. Theory 2. Someone she knew let her out. But no one was seen entering or leaving, and no calls or messages suggest a planned meeting. Theory 3. Foul play inside the apartment. But there was no struggle, no evidence, nothing disturbed. Every explanation leads to another dead end. Years later, the case remains unsolved. Her family still waits for answers. Her belongings remain untouched. Her apartment was eventually rented to someone else. But one fact has never changed. She went to bed that night, and she never walked out. Someone knows what happened in that locked room. And until that truth comes out, this disappearance remains one of the most disturbing mysteries on record. Someone knows, and someone is still silent.
They thought the apartment would hold answers. It didn't. But what investigators found outside the apartment would make the case even more unsettling. By the time police treated the disappearance as suspicious, nearly 18 hours had already passed. In that time, neighbors went to work, visitors came and went, surveillance systems recorded over themselves. The building's hallway camera only stored footage for 12 hours. By the time detectives requested it, the night she vanished was already gone. No record of her leaving, no record of anyone entering, just a blank space where answers should have been. Days later, a neighbor came forward. He said that sometime after midnight he heard a sound from her apartment. Not a scream, not a fight, just a single thud. At the time, he didn't think much of it. In an apartment building, noises are normal. But when he learned she was missing, that sound stayed with him. Police searched again. Still nothing. No damage, no signs of impact, no explanation for the noise. Her phone was examined. It never left the charger. No calls after her final text, no activity, no location changes, which raised a disturbing possibility. Whatever happened to her happened inside the apartment, and it happened quickly. Detectives interviewed coworkers, friends, family. Everyone told the same story. She wasn't planning to disappear. She wasn't afraid of anyone. She hadn't mentioned threats. But one detail stood out. A few weeks earlier, she had mentioned feeling like she was being watched. She laughed it off, said it was probably nothing. That comment was never written into the initial police report. There was one theory police rarely discussed publicly. What if the door had been unlocked from the inside and then locked again? Not by her, but someone who had access. Someone who didn't force entry. Someone who didn't leave evidence. Someone who knew the building. That theory quietly shifted the investigation, but without proof, it went nowhere. Weeks turned into months. Searches stopped. Tips slowed. Media attention faded. Her family kept calling. They were told the same thing every time. There are no new leads. The apartment was eventually cleaned, then rented. The last physical trace of her life disappeared. Investigators still agree on one thing. She did not plan to leave. She did not walk out into a new life, and she did not vanish on her own. Which leaves one final question. If she didn't leave the apartment, how did she disappear from it? Someone else was there that night. They didn't break in, they didn't rush, and they didn't make mistakes. And until they do, this disappearance remains unsolved.